And we're live. Hello, everyone. Today we got a fun topic. I'm eager for this one. I am so eager that I have no idea how I want to approach it. I was like, well, I could start off with showing everyone what I have. I could just, start going through my spreadsheets and show everyone how I calculate loot. And I could also just, show a bunch of images with a bunch of loot options and things like that. I thought of all kinds of things, and I really couldn't make up my mind how I wanted to proceed. So I decided, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to kind of do this off the cuff. My initial ideas and thoughts of it. I'm going to show different loots that I've had. I'm going to show some 5e. Going to show, hey, Nathan. Got Nathan in the chat. I'm going to show some of my loot from 5e. Some of my loot from Star Wars D20. And I'm going to show some of the loot from Cypher, Vertigo Cypher. I call it Vertigo Cypher because the game itself is set in the DC Comics / Vertigo Comics universe. It's Cypher because that's the actual game system. It's Cypher. So thematically, the things are based in the DC universe. Now, also with that, you'll see when I get to it, there's some really fun things I did with it. Mainly some Easter eggs and crossovers from different universes, because in my games, I have a lot of fun. One of the things I did in the DC Vertigo, and it's part of the reason why I wanted to do for a long time, I wanted to do a modern-based tabletop. Something set in our world, or realistic or semi-realistic, with fantasy elements, obviously. And I have a Rainbow Six campaign. Which is more, not really like a role play game. That's more of like an RTS. And then I had DC Vertigo. I had them I wanted to do. And then I had, what was the last one? Well, technically there's Vertigo and then there's DC. I've blended the two. I actually wanted to do a separate one that's superhero based and then another one that is Vertigo based, but I decided to blend the two, and that actually worked out pretty well, believe it or not. I thought that was a great combination just to for a tabletop, because I was able to divide my players, and half of them were superhero based, and then the other half were fantasy and supernatural based. And then one of the things I got to do, I was thinking about this, is I got to introduce, now when I go over the Vertigo Cypher things, I'll go over some of the cool things you can do with fantasy versus, or fantasy, I would say, in like the modern age. That'd probably be more accurate. Fantasy in the modern age. Because like, we see it all the time in pop culture. Turn on an episode of The Simpsons, turn on, I would say, any Marvel comic, or read any Marvel comic. There's cultural references, there's things in it that you get to like see and relate to or get the reference of. And this type of thing has been done since the dawn of time. We've all seen this happen way before. Go back to classic movies, they reference things that are very obvious and of that time. Of today's era, a lot of people just goes right over their head. We don't get the references because we weren't raised in that era. We don't recognize some of the key things and some of the references people make. Now, if you're a trivia connoisseur, you might recognize it. You may be like, oh, well, everyone knows that this is the same guy who did that role in another movie. I say that and I immediately think of was it James Gardner and Mel Gibson. James Gardner was the original Maverick in the I think 60s Western, and Mel Gibson played Maverick in the 1990 film with James Gardner as his father. So that was a cute little twist they threw in there. It's a cultural reference. That's a cultural reference. That casting was deliberate, and if you go back and watch the Maverick from the 90s, you might not catch on. That's like, wait a minute, the senior actor here, he played Maverick in the TV show. Okay. So I'm going to, maybe I should focus on this first. So from a story writer's perspective, from a story writing element and how you're approaching things, and as well as a dungeon master, one of the key things I like to break down is, who are my characters? Who are they? What are they doing? And what do they bring to the table? And so for that, with loot, I distribute it or break it down into 4 fundamental categories. I might break it down a little bit further, but I essentially break it down into 4 categories. There are the spellcasters, the melee fighters, the range fighters, and tanks. All right. Some people would just say, well, damage is all in one blanket. We had our previous stream where we talked about party roles. And I mentioned in that one, I think it's absolutely dumb. All of the listed traits. Let me see if I can find that real quick, because I'll run down that list real quick. Because I did not like, when we went through them, I was like, oh, this is so dumb. Here we are. We have the blaster, the controller, defender, the face, the healer, the scout, the striker, the support. To me, it's like I'd rather stick to tank, damage, healer, maybe throw in support. That'd be like how I'd break down the roles. Make it very simple, very easy for you as a dungeon master or as a story writer to lock in and say, all right, I don't need to make this more complicated. I leave the complications of it to the players. I let them decide, or the reader, I let them decide how nuanced they want that to be. So if they want to see a character as the leader, in most of my games, the party leader, quote unquote, he or she doesn't typically take the reins. Players seem to be shy with jumping into leadership positions, especially if they've played together before, because they recognize the leadership position is very tough and very agonizing, especially in my games. It's a stressful position in my games, because I come up with boss fights that require strategy and thinking and calculating. And if you want to play a character who turns their brain off, you're probably going to get yourself killed, because in my games, I require strategy. So I have spellcasters, melee fighters, range fighters, and tanks. In this case, spellcasters also includes healers, and it includes wizards, mages, sorcerers, and warlocks, all kinds of other spellcasters. And let me I'm gonna go through a bunch of items here, and first one I'm gonna throw on the docket here. This is a small minor item. I like giving noob items to people. This was an original. I want to say it was. It might not have been. Pretty sure it was. Yeah, it was original. So this was called the tinderbox of many things. A tinderbox, if you don't know, is like a tin can. It has some flint, a sparker or an igniter. It has it can have several other things. It can have some cloth in it. And the idea of it is you're able to start a fire using the tinderbox. And in fact, in America, our founding fathers often had tinderboxes at the ready to keep their supplies ready to go if they need to start a fire in the middle of adverse conditions like snow or rain. So a tinderbox would have all of the supplies to do that ready to go. So this is a tinderbox of many things. So on top of those things that this tinderbox can do, it has the magical ability. The first one is called a ritual bell. It allows the users to forget one spell and remember another. It has a 1-day cooldown. So if your wizard needs to forget a spell that they have and they want to relearn or learn another spell, they can do that right away with just using this item. They can only do it once a day, but they can do it. The next one is Alarming Bell. Removes disadvantage on sleeping allies stirred awake. So you could set this alarming bell, and if they get stirred awake, you aren't going to be caught with your pants down because your character would know what that bell sounds like, and they're able to jump up and not suffer a disadvantage. Which, if you don't know what disadvantage is, for those who don't know what D&D, disadvantage is you roll 2 dice, and disadvantage is you take the weaker of the two. So one is an 18, the other is a 12. You take the 12. If you have advantage, you roll 2 dice, you take the 18, and you throw away the 12. If you have advantage and the enemy has if you have disadvantage, if you have advantage, the enemy has a disadvantage, and they have advantage. Yeah, it's advantage and advantage. If they have advantage, you have advantage. They both kind of cancel each other out. So I believe that's how it works. I'm probably being dumb about that now I'm thinking about it. That doesn't sound right. If you have advantage and you have disadvantage, yes, that's correct. If you have advantage on one thing and disadvantage on another, they cancel each other out, and it becomes just a regular roll, so you only roll 1 die instead of rolling 2 for a negative or a positive. So that's the tinderbox of many things. It was a neat little item, little small item. My friend Leo, his character Leo, he had taken this thing and he had brought it in one of the time travel missions that they had fought in my second 5e game. In my second 5e game, they had crossed over from the past. And from my previous 5e game, my first 5e, and they met one of the original party members from my 5e game. And when they had met him, he worked with them, helped them solve the whole time anachronism. And once he had helped them, one of his gifts to the party was the tinderbox that he had started his entire journey in my first campaign. It was one of the first items he got. He gave it to the new party as like, here, you guys will probably need this better than I would. And so I found that in my logs of just loot items, and I was like, you know what, this will be a good one. It's not a combat based one, not necessarily. It's a nice utility item, and I like to come up with utility based things. things that are just, they're not really combat based. I come up with a lot of combat based items, and that's a part of me being like a tactician, and I love the strategy and I love the fighting aspect of tabletops. So whenever I come up with an item that has no like real combat value, like immediate combat value, I like to highlight those. And then here is another one. This is a powerful item. This is a trinket called the Focusing Lens of the Luminarch. Its special is, as a bonus action, you activate this item and grant your next 3 attacks dealing 2d8 radiant damage. On your next 3 spells, deal plus 2d8 healing. So this is a very, very powerful item. Completely on the opposite spectrum of the tinderbox. The tinderbox is like a noob item. They're at level 1. They're starting out their journey or their adventure. They're on their way. The Luminarch focusing lens here, or the focusing lens of the Luminarch, this is when they went to the past, when the second campaign went to the past. This is one of the loot items they had gotten from it. And it's effectively an end game item. All right, so I'm not looking to replace this for the players. I'm looking at them to keep this item. They're supposed to be like, hey, this is a really good item. If I can't use it, I'll pass it on to someone else who can, because this is not going to be a bad item. This is going to always be a valid, useful item to have on any one of us. So I gave them that item anticipating that the next big bad boss fight they're going to be doing, they're going to need some serious firepower in either or, damage or healing. And I wanted it in the hands, personally, I wanted it in the hands of any number of the party members who were capable of both. There were 3 party members, if I recall. There was Timaeus, Sylvanus, and there was D3. All 3 of them were capable of spell casting. And I'm sorry, there's also Dawn. Dawn was also capable of spell casting and attacking. So the idea of it is that, okay, they can attack, they can heal, whichever one, as a bonus action, they can empower it and make it do more. Oh, Nathan says there's a joke in there somewhere. Probably. I know it's a good 10 minutes late, but yeah. Then we have, this is a classic. This is the, I call it the Scroll of Alexius. Alexius is a god in my world. So, the Scroll of Alexius basically does one thing, and then it gets used. You gain a level up. So you just, boom, you level up. However much it requires. I don't say it's like exactly XP. It's just, it takes you right to the amount of XP you need to level up. And it can only be used once every 5 levels. This is actually the changed version. The original version of the scroll was you can only use it once per game. That was the original. I decided, I don't know if I'll want to use it again. I don't know if I'll want to incentivize players to go for it. So I opted for once every 5 levels. All right. So that was some of the my first 5e loot items. I'm going to up loot table, loot catch. I have a lot of loot systems that I use. Okay, here we are. All right, so here's one that I have. These are for the noob items for my second 5e game. Let's see. All right, I gave everyone in this game, I gave everyone who started it a noob item. And I let them have some fun. Now, unfortunately, some of them didn't really get to use them, and I actually had to pass them on to the other players because some of these guys dropped out of the game. So the first one we have, first one is the Spectral Compass. Description: acts as a regular compass, but its metal instruments have a strange light blue glow to them. So its special, its first special was Rune Door, or Rune Doorway, I'm sorry. As an action or bonus action, so it's either or, you create a runic doorway through an object such as a tree, walls, or rocks, allowing you to avoid pathing and move through the object that would, that's some bad language there. This doorway can only carry you up to 10 feet through mass. This doorway lasts until you pass through it, and only the compass's holder can enter this doorway. And then the next one is Rune Circle. As a use item action, create a rune circle on the ground 5 feet that does one of three things that you desire and lasts 1 minute. Blue circle increases damage and healing by 3. White circle grants you protection from evil. Green circle grants you protection from death. Charges, it has 3 per day. Recharges after a long rest. So that's a nice little doohickey. Has some combat potential. And it also has some mobility potential too. If you're able to jump through walls and jump through doors. Can also be very dangerous if not used carefully. A player can easily kill themselves with that if they're not very careful. Then the next item, this was for a paladin that we had in the party. Oh, so I'm sorry, the Spectral Compass, that was for a wizard. That was for a wizard in the party. So this one is for a paladin. It's called the Demon Lantern. First ability is called Fire and Brimstone. As a free action, you can remove 2 stacks of cold or heat. One of the things I had in this campaign at the start was a hot and cold bar, so that as you were out in the wild, you would incur stacks of hot or cold, and it would give you penalties. Then we have Red Light. Offers you 20 feet of red light that is invisible to demons. Its next one is Absorb Spell. As a reaction, this is probably the best part of it. As a reaction, ready action, or dodge action, you can use this lantern to absorb a projectile spell that is aimed at a target within 50 feet of the lantern, or if any spell is directly targeting the user. You can open the lantern to absorb the spell. In either case, to use this ability costs 1 charge of the lantern. At 0 charges, the light goes out and will not return until after a long rest. It has 3 charges. We had Timaeus, I forget who got the Demon Lantern at some point, but there were several instances where the Demon Lantern would have really helped the party. And Timaeus was upset several times over because he's like, if he had this lantern, so many fights and circumstances would have gone differently, because this lantern would have saved or spared a lot of damage just by throwing it out there. And that was one of the things he wasn't quite sure about, was how does the absorb spell thing work? You know, it says 50 feet, blah, blah, blah. And I was telling him, well, no, if you throw it out, like you open its lid and then you toss it somewhere, it'll still have that 50-foot range. So all you have to do is stay within that 50 feet range, and it'll automatically capture a harmful spell aimed. And then we have the next weapon. This is for a fighter. This character was a fighter, dwarf engineer. This is the grappling hook gun. Description says this grappling hook has one shot to use and 2 different functional uses. Reloading the device takes some time, and some may criticize its lack of efficiency, but you know its benefits outweigh its shortcomings. It contains 20 feet of rope. Its special hook shot. As a bonus action, you can use the grappling hook to gain advantage on climbing athletics checks. Special 2. Counter trap. As a reaction, when you trigger a trap, you can use this grappling hook to evade, granting you advantage on your saving throws against traps. If you evade a trap in this manner, you can take no damage, even if otherwise you would take damage from the trap. It has 1 charge per day, and it recharges after a short rest. That's a key thing regarding the grappling hook, is it's basically advantage on a saving throw, and then it requires a recharge. And it's a short rest, so it's okay, a short rest is 1 hour instead of 8 hours, which is a long rest. And this was one that Timaeus had with his first character. This is his first character was a rogue, if I recall. He was a rogue and pirate. This is called the Clockwork Music Globe. Description. This music globe plays a serenading tune that could help put a child to sleep, but you know it holds other secrets within it. Legend says that a Professor Taj trapped a bard named Lindsay within it and wanted her to live immortally. It has special Feel Alive. As a bonus action, you heal yourself for 1d6 plus your charisma. Special 2, Shatter Me. Your next attack, spell, saving throw, death save, used item, or skill check automatically succeeds if the circumstance permits it to be possible. DM note, that is not out of the realm of possibility. So you can automatically succeed if it's a possibility. If it's not possible, the DM will shut you down. It has 2 charges, and it recharges after a long rest. This ended up in the hands of the party's rogue, Warforged Rogue. He actually has this. To my knowledge, he still has it. And it's something that Timaeus has really been eyeing over and really wants. But the rogue is like, nah, I'm going to keep this because I'm a rogue and I probably need something like this more than you. Let me see. What else is here? I'm not sure I want to. I still got plenty of good ones here that I can share with you guys. All right. So this is one I gave to the party's druid. Excuse me. It's called the Forlorn Deck. Description. This deck of playing cards possesses some really strange characters on it. It doubles as a universal toolkit, that's for sure. When you draw a card, it flares with a special property and only a few cards may be empowered at a time. When you use the card, it's exhausted and is restored after a rest period, And if you still hold on to it, at least one card from the deck, miraculously, the whole deck returns back to the last holder of the entire stack. Special, 5-card spread. As a use item action, roll 1d6 to decide which card you pull. These cards do not have to be used immediately, but expire at the end of combat. Cards can be tossed to enemies and allies alike to benefit or hex them as a free action on your turn if they are within 20 feet. So real quick to break that down. You can buff your allies or you can hex your enemies. So if you want to screw them over, you can. If you want to help your allies, you can. So on the 1d6, it has a scale here. If you roll a 1, it's called the card of the club. This card grants the next attack to miss. So this is a hex. So it's like, okay, let me throw this at my enemy. Their next attack is going to miss. And there is no expiration date on this, by the way. If you take note, if say the ogre you throw this at doesn't make an attack, they decide they're going to heal themselves. Well, that doesn't matter. The next time they attack, it's going to miss. Then we have second option is Card of the Mistletoe. This card heals for 1d6. So you might want to give that to an ally. Now, again, both these cards, you could give them to an enemy or to an ally or an enemy. So if you want your ally to miss their next attack, you can do that. Nothing's stopping you from doing that. If you want to heal an enemy, you can do that. Third card is the Card of the Moon. This card grants advantage on your next skill roll. Fourth card is Card of the Serpent. This card restores one spell slot of the lowest available. Card 5 is Card of the Turtle. This card grants 10 temporary hit points. Card 6 is Card of the King. This card imitates any card in the deck and performs its functions as such. So the sixth one is you have access to any of the cards of your choice. Well, one of the cards of your choice. So it's like the top tier. It can do everything. And you get 2 charges from this deck. It recharges after a long rest. All right. Then we have, this is one my brother liked. This is an item my brother liked. The Moon Coin. Description. This glowing coin is astonishing sight to see. During the day, it's supposed to say, during the day, it seems like an ordinary coin, but at night, it glows a bright white and silver color. It holds elven markings on it with strange runes. Special. Fate's Night. As a bonus action, spin the coin to gain a blessing from the elven worshipped goddesses. Lasts until a long rest. If you pick, or if it, you basically roll 1d4. And on a 1, it does Goddess of Shivas. She grants you immunity to negative effects of rain. That's another environmental thing. 2, the Goddess Epextura. You gain +2 on all healing. 3, Goddess Tychirian. Immune to the negative effects of heat. 4, Goddess Apexora. You gain 1 charge of inspiration and immunity to cold. Charges 2 per day, recharges after a long rest. I want to say I buffed this coin or I changed this coin a little bit. But yeah, my brother made a point to tell me that he absolutely loved this coin. He loved the idea of it. In that campaign, he wished it had a little bit more application and usefulness. But his character had a obsession with flipping it. Flipping it. And this went to, I didn't mention that, did I? The Moon Coin, that went to Sylvanas' character, a Warlock. So that was her character's token and item. And I think she gave it away to the druid. She ended up giving the noob item to the druid. And let me see. All right. And I didn't give them, I came up with another thing I wanted to give them. I decided not to give them this. It says technically choice 3. It's actually choice 2. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Here's choice 2. Derp. So choice 2, I gave the players the option of a bedroll because I didn't let them have any of the starting noob equipment. They were basically starting with their class equipment, and that was it. So I gave them the option of a bedroll, a small tent, or a magic globe. The bedroll is a comfortable bedroll that allows you to hide and remain cozy regardless of the weather outside. Special, negates the effects of cold, wind, and sandstorms while inside it. The small tent, a portable tent that offers protection from the elements, large enough to house only 2 persons. It is a 2x2 structure size. Special, negates the effects of heat, sandstorm, and rain. So it doesn't mitigate wind. And the bedroll, I'm sorry, if you know, the bedroll doesn't mitigate heat. And then there's the magic globe, which a magical globe that you can place on the ground and transform into a shelter that offers protection from the elements. Large enough to house only 2 persons. It is a 2x2 structure size. Special, negates the effects of arcane storms, sandstorms, and rain while inside. So it doesn't negate heat or cold. Okay, I don't know what happened there. How long was I dropped? All right, sorry about that. I had to go back and listen to the replay to make sure that I got to finish all what I was saying. So, awesome. Yeah, so there was, that's what I did. I gave him those items, the shelter, and then I gave him a trinket. This was for my second 5E campaign. Now, I did have what other good items could I share? Let's see. Let me go through. Here we go. Here we go. Here's a good item. This is one of the items I gave to Myas. This is Hellbomb's Magic Eye. It's a relic / orb. Okay. Its properties are its range, 40 feet. You can use it at 0 feet. There's nothing wrong with you using it at melee range. It's considered light, and it's floating. So the idea of this thing is that, and if you're actually holding it, it's 1 pound. But the idea of it is that as a wizard or a sorcerer, you're able to have this in your offhand. So you have this floating orb hovering over your palm. And I love that aesthetic. I love that idea of a wizard having a mystical object levitated or floating above their offhand as they're using their main hand to wave their wand or scepter or staff and just start blasting out magic spells. And so Hellbaum's Magic Eye, the magic eye of an ancient elven red dragon, Hellbaum. Its floating presence grants magic users various abilities while quote-unquote held in the offhand. While in your inventory / pack, it weighs 1 pound and 0 pounds while equipped. All right, special is, I'm going to try not to butcher this because there's an accent in there. But it's Doragon Borido. Doragon Borido. The wielder of Hellbaum's magic eye that makes an attack with Shadow Blade allows them to dash 20 feet to their opponent to close the distance for the strike. If a target dies to Shadow Blade, the caster, where was I? The caster can attack again on another target within range. This ability features can only be used a number of times on your turn equal to the caster's dexterity modifier. And then the next was Burning Head. Range spell attack. Deals 1d12 fire damage. Crit 20. Can be cast as a bonus action. So as a bonus action, you can lob this thing and get an extra 1d12 fire damage out of it. He had done that a few times where he was like, you know what? We need every bit of damage we can. Hurls the eye at him. And sometimes it made a difference. I'll admit, sometimes it did. Sometimes when he was fighting something weak, he was able to throw the head at it, or the eye at it, and kill something that was pathetically weak. And he was allowed to then focus his next turn on something more important. What else do we have here? He has this weapon. This is another weapon I gave to Myas called the Nikana the Shadow Stalker, a longsword. 2 pounds, 2d6 slashing damage. It's a martial weapon, has finesse, and it's versatile. If you dual wield or if you use it with 2 hands, it does 2d8 instead of 2d6. So he has the option of 2-handed or 1-handing. Its first special is attack +3. Its next special is Shadow Verge. You channel your energies into the you channel the energies of the Shadow Verge into your weapon and change this weapon's damage type to necrotic, reducing healing that the target receives by 6. Special 3. Light Verge. You channel the energies of Aplexus's Verge into your weapon and change this weapon's damage type to slashing. So this weapon allows you to change its damage to slashing or necrotic based on what you want it to do. Then there's the final special, which is Studies of Les Matriska. Blade Song does not end early if you make an attack while using this weapon with 2 hands. So he was a blade singer. Timaeus, he was a blade singer. And his concept for his character was high mobility. And he wanted to be able to run around and jump around and do all kinds of acrobatic things like an elf would. So this was one of the items that allowed him to do that. Because if I recall, Blade Song gives the blade singer several abilities. I'm drawing a blank on what they are off the top of my head. But that was something that the Blade Song was really good for. And when I was reading it, I was like, okay, this seems like something that it would be really nice. Be really nice if he could actually keep his Blade Song lasting longer. Now, in hindsight, I would actually change this. I don't like the two-handed aspect of it. It doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't mesh well with Hellbomb's magic eye. So I would probably make it so that if it's in the Shadow Verge, it would make Blade Song last longer. If it were in the Light Verge, it would make it last so long as he makes an attack on his turn or something to that effect. Like I would make it have an equilibrium aspect where you balance out one form or the other. Tamias is a dancer, so he is capable of stance dancing and changing and managing things like that. It's nice having a player like that in your games because they can handle a very complicated item like this and integrate it into several other items and several other abilities. Any other ones here that look good? I'm looking through them and seeing none of these particularly. All right. Let me check chat. See if we have any messages. No. Okay. Okay. Let's not do that one. We can do this one. This is fine. This was for Sylvanas. She was the warlock, the party warlock. She later, I think she said it on the stream in one of my videos before. She had said that she had changed class to Bard, but before she went Bard, she was actually a warlock. And as warlock, she got this nice, like one of her first items was this Battle Witch skirt. It's black leather, light armor. Her first special is Everdream. You gain 2 known spell slots. So she is able to gain 2 additional spells that she can know. Special 2 is called Ghost Love. Score a critical hit against an enemy with a ranged spell attack, and it will restore 1 spent spell slot. That's very handy. And then special Nemo. When you take the dodge action, you heal for 1d6 hit points. And then I don't recall. I think she did. Get this next item. This next one is a part of the Battle Witch series. This is a Battle Witch tunic. It has the appearance of a black leather shirt. Special 1 is Percussion. As a free action, you can spend a metal shard to cause your next Thunderclap spell to boost allies' damage, or their damage and healing is increased by an additional 1d10 plus caster's charisma. If you are within 100 feet radius of the sound lasting for 5 minutes, or if they are within 100 feet radius. So that's the cast range, is 100 feet. And the sound lasts 5 minutes. So it gives them a 1d10 plus the caster's charisma bonus to their damage and healing for 5 minutes. That's a very OP buff. That's a very powerful buff. So it could potentially give them a plus. If she has, say, a 5 in charisma, that could give a plus 15 healing and damage to all your spells and healing spells, or all your spells and attacks for 5 minutes. That's pretty much the entire fight. Then special 2 is Tear of the Goddess. As an action and the cost of a metal shard, you can cast Witch Bolt instead of spending a Warlock spell slot. Special 2, Witch Bolt's critical hit range is increased by 2. Special 3, Witch Bolt's range is increased by 60 feet, so it allows her to snipe with it. Special 4, Witch Bolt's spell attack plus 5. Special 5, is it 5? No, special 6. Yeah, 1, 2, yeah. Special 6 is it offers resistance to cold. And let me see, where does it... I'm trying to find out where the metal shards come in, because she actually has something that gives her the metal shards. She has this is a fun item I gave her. Completely impromptu. She had done something in the game where she had awoken a dark god, and it was a little riddle that she had to solve, and she managed to solve it. And when she solved it, she had awoken the dark god, and the dark god, not knowing what her affiliations or alignments are, only that she served evil, he had rewarded her with a metal collar. It's called the metal collar of Gladom. It's a crown. Gladom's collar, it floats over your head like an obsidian halo. That's special 1. Special 2, recruit 7734. Obtaining this crown rewards you the feat Metalhead. Feat, you're a solid rock star. That's what the feat says, is you're a solid rock star. And people may refer to you officially as the Metalhead. So this is like a very like heavy metal theme to it. Her whole battle witch with the metal shards and metal fragments and things like that. That's the idea of her character here. Or that's the idea of this entire suit of armor. I still don't see where I put the damn... I don't see where I put the metal shards at, though. Let me see. My cat... Yeah, I can't find it. Oh, well, I'm not going to worry about it. Let me see if there's anything else that looks kind of interesting to talk about. Or do I want to move on? I'm looking right now through the other characters, and I'm taking a look at... Let's see, we have some of these items I didn't even get to give them. Oh, well, here's one. This one I gave to the Warforged Rogue. This is the Clockwork Utility Belt. Special, balanced, While worn by a Warforged, its weight is reduced by 10 pounds. Special 2, War Pig. Constructs you create have an additional 2 hit points for every character level you have. Special 3, Combat Repairs. Constructs you create can spend their action to recover 1d8 hit points. One of the things that his Warforged had the potential of doing was making like little mini Warforges or mini clones, and he could send them out as like drones to attack for him. Oh, maybe I'll point out this one. If I can get the wording right, this might be interesting. I don't know. This is Celerity and Velocity, 2-hand crossbows. They're partners. Let's do it this way. The first one here is Celerity. Okay, you could also pair it with Velocity, but Celerity is the first one here on the docket. It does 1d6 plus 6 piercing plus cold. So it's 1d6 piercing plus 6 cold damage. Its properties are finesse, reloading. It has 5 ammunition. It's a light weapon, and it has a range of 60 to 120 feet. Celerity's special 1 is Magnum. When Celerity and Velocity are equipped in both hands, this weapon deals an additional 1d6 cold damage. So you can take that 1d6 and make it 2d6 if you're dual wielding them. Now, if you're dual wielding them, they both do 1d6, but I'll get to that in a moment. All right. So special 2 for Celerity is Absolute 0. Any cold damage dealt by this weapon is considered magical. So that means it can bypass natural resistances a target might have. Then its third special is called Suppressing Fire. As an agility action is something that his character had as a unique resource to him, similar to the metal shards that I was talking about for Sylvanas' character. So as an agility action, and while dual wielding ranged weapons, so it doesn't have to be Velocity and Celerity, it can be Celerity and some other weapon. You ignore the reload property of your weapons and spin rapidly and make enemies within your weapon's maximum range, so enemies inside of 120 feet. Enemies must make a charisma save with the DC equal to 10 plus your ranged attack modifier. Upon failure, you deal damage of both weapons. Ranged enemies who fail the saving throw are frightened and must make at least one attack against you in order to break their fear. On a successful save, the enemy takes no damage and have their movement reduced by half. So they end up basically just having movement reduction. Then we have Velocity. Velocity is all the same stats with the exception of it does 1d6 plus 6 piercing and lightning. So it does 1d6 piercing and then plus 6 lightning damage. And then it has special 1 is Magnum. When Celerity and Velocity are equipped in both hands, this weapon deals an additional 1d6 lightning. So not only, if you have them both equipped, not only are each of them doing 1d6 piercing, they're also doing 1d6 cold, 1d6 lightning, on top of the 6 cold and 6 lightning. So basically it's 4d6 plus 12. That's a lot of damage from 2 crossbows. Then you have special 2 called the Clash. Any lightning damage dealt by this weapon is considered magical. Same thing as Absolute 0, which makes the cold damage magical. Then we have Celerity's ultimate ability here called Narrowing Shot. As an agility action, and while dual wielding ranged weapons, you fire in a cone of 45 feet, and enemies within the area must make a dexterity saving throw. Upon failure, you deal damage of both weapons or half as much on a successful save. You can continue to use Narrowing Shot at no additional cost of agility points if you choose to concentrate on this ability, and must make a concentration save if you take any damage. Each round after the first you spend concentrating on the ability, the distance is increased by 15 feet to a maximum of your weapon's range. The area is decreased into a straight line by 10 feet per round spent concentrating. When the area is decreased into a line, you can then force enemies within the path of the straight line to make 2 saving throws in succession, dealing more damage to them. So instead of just hitting them once, you hit them twice. When you reach the narrowest point of this ability, you can also apply your critical strike damage to the damage roll. Drains 2 ammunition per round per target. Narrowing Shot cannot be repositioned and must, here's a side note to it, by the way. Narrowing Shot cannot be repositioned and must fire in the same direction as it's initially used. The attacker must strafe side to side, move forward and back, but they cannot adjust its direction. So you can basically just fire it down a tunnel, and that's what it is. It's basically just a tunnel shot. I don't recall. I came up with 2 other items here. I think I gave them these. There is Celerity Prime and there's Velocity Prime. Both of these items, I reduced the wording down. I made it not as bulky and clunky in wording. And yeah, okay, yeah. So with these ones, it removed the reload property of the weapons. And they also gave a agility points for the Warforge. Okay, here's one that I gave the dwarf engineer fighter. He was a gunfighter. This is the Black Walker revolver. Its damage is see the details, property, heavy, ammunition, ranged 10 feet to 60. Its special is horse shot. A powerful ranged attack from this weapon intended to put down a target in a single shot. When you take the attack action, you spend 1 round from this pistol and deal 3d8 plus 5 piercing damage. After each shot, you have a 20% chance for this weapon to jam on your next attack. See jamming details. Weaknesses: slow to reload. This weapon requires 5 minutes to reload. Jamming: when this weapon jams, you must spend a bonus action to clear the jam. This was one of the noob items that he was able to loot. He got several other great items before he got to this one. It's just this one highlighted for me, so it was like, okay, let me bring that one up. I gave him this one, Imperial Guard Belt, stopping power. Forceful shot knocks down medium-sized creatures and smaller onto the ground. Special 2, Corollian's Prayer. Whenever an enemy attempts to intimidate or cast fear upon you, gain advantage on your saving throw. Up to 2 allies standing next to you also gain this bonus. Oh, here's one he got. He got the Buffalo Poncho, cloth/chest. Special one is Tumble. As a movement action or reaction, you tumble up to 20 feet in any direction. Your next ranged weapon attack has advantage, and your next attack the next attack against you has disadvantage. Special 2, Signature. If you're wearing a sombrero hat, cowboy hat, or a turban hat, you gain 5 temporary hit points after a long or short rest. His character, if I recall, used to have a I want to say a cowboy hat, but he might have had a sombrero hat. Very obvious desperado type character. And what else did he have? This is another fun little item I gave him. The Potato Smasher Grenade. As an attack action, arm and throw this grenade using strength or dexterity. On a 10 or higher, you hit the square you're targeting. The targets within 10 feet must make a dexterity save of 15. On a failed save, they take 3d10 force damage, or half as much on a successful throw. That should say a successful save, but you get the gist. Here's one of the neat items he got. He got the Silverstone Dwarf Trench Gun. It's 10 pounds. Damage is 3d6 times 2, piercing. It's loading, heavy, two-handed. Its special is Deep Impact. This weapon has a bonus penetration, shooting at a medium-sized creature, piercing up to 10 feet in a line, past the target's first allowed. Allowing you to hit one additional target for the same damage if they're within the line. Special, Steady Aim. This weapon suffers no penalty for making ranged attacks while enemies are within melee attack range. So that is very much a up-close and personal weapon. It's a trench gun. What do you expect? Okay, here's one. One sec. I'm going to take a drink real quick. Okay, so here is one that I want to say he got this from when this is the other Warforged Paladin, D3. He got this one when they went back in time, and they were prepping to return back to their timeline, and they had to fight a big bad boss. And he had got this item called Ringsworn's Shield of the Sun Lion. It gives, here's a boatload of things it gives. Strength plus 5, wisdom plus 2, max hit points plus 10, armor points plus 10. Armor points are another secondary HP bar, basically, or third HP bar. Special 1, Cobaltium Shield. As a dodge action, you gain 6 charges of a spell shield. When you take spell damage, you can roll 1d10 plus wisdom to reduce the damage by the amount. You can increase the reduction amount by 1d10 per charge you wish to spend, up to a maximum of 6d10 per spell. You can hold up to 24 charges of Koboltium Shield. As a reaction, you can protect one ally within 5 feet of you with your charges. As a reaction, you can throw your shield up to 40 feet and protect an ally for up to 3 charges of spell shield. Koboldium charges reset at 0 after 10 minutes. So this was, as Tamias would, I think, articulate it, it's like Captain America's shield right here. This is a shield that's really powerful. And again, this is another endgame intended item. This is meant for some serious power playing. And the sad part was, so many instances, this item wasn't used. It was just completely dismissed, not acknowledged that it exists or useful, just thrown aside. And the player would just keep attacking. Just, I'm going to make an attack. I'm going to make an attack. I'm going to make an attack. And he then, at the same time he had the shield, he also got another item from the same boss. This one is called Gavel of Divine Rights. It's a one-handed hammer. It does 1d8 bludgeoning. It's versatile, so if you dual wield it, or I'm sorry, if you two-hand it, it does 1d12. It gives max HP plus 10. It does plus 6 radiant damage. I'm sorry, all radiant damage you deal does plus 6. So he's a paladin. If he does a Divine Wrath or whatever, a smite, it does radiant damage. Boom, an extra 6 damage tacked on. Then his special one is called Paladin Armor. Consumes 10 lay on hands charges to create a protective shield around yourself equal to 25 temporary hit points. So you spend 10 lay on hands, which is 10 healing, to gain 25 temporary hit points. Then there's special 2 called Press On. As a bonus action during a dodge action, force enemies within a 15-foot cone to make a strength save or be pushed back 5 feet. The strength save equals 8 plus your strength plus your proficiency. The attacker decides where the enemies are pushed to. So you get to decide where you're going to be pushing the enemy to be. It then comes with a weapon enchant, Sigil of 3 Kings. When you are threatened by a saving throw that is of a strength, wisdom, or charisma, you gain plus 2. So between these two items, the hammer and shield, this guy could have been a really powerful tank. Really powerful. And he opted instead to use his two-handed sword. Even though multiple times saying, I'm going to tank. I want to be the tank. I want to be the guy who takes the damage. I want to be the brave soul of who charges out there. Now, mind you, I think, yeah, here's his sword. This is the sword he was using, the two-handed sword. 1d8 plus 1d8 cold. So it's slashing and cold. Special 1, Archangel Frost. This weapon deals bonus cold magic damage. Cold damage is magic, it should say. This property cannot be removed from the weapon. Special 2, it gives plus 2 on attacks. Special 3, Bako's Breath. When you take the dodge action, you can roll 1d6 and add it to your AC until the start of your next turn. This ability can only be used 3 times per day and requires a long rest to recharge. This player refused to take dodge actions. Refused. Like, he's in there, he jumps right in the front, he starts getting beat up, he immediately begins attacking and attacking and attacking. Which, you know, in his defense, that is what 5e wants you to do. 5e doesn't want you to strategize or think. It wants you to just run in there and smash. I've talked about this before, where I've argued and debated with people about it, much to my annoyance. Much to my annoyance. think I'm going to skip out on them. And you know what? I think I'm going to call the stream here. And I'll save some more weapons for maybe next week. I have a few other things I'm thinking about talking about next week. One of the things I'm interested in talking about is player crafting. Maybe going through my crafting, how I do crafting. I was going to cover my Vertigo weapons, but I'm going to, I think, save those for another time. I'll probably do another player loot stream, probably in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe, Lord willing. So I have some things going on that are in real life that might postpone me or stop me. But yeah, if any of these weapons you're curious about, or you want to know anything about, player looted weapons, let me know. Let me know in the comments. Please like, subscribe, share with your friends. As I've said before, I would love to be more engaging with the chat. So if you have any questions or anything, I'd love to be talking it out with fellow players or writers. So have a good one, and thank you for stopping by. I hope this was entertaining. Bye-bye.